Hello, everyone. Here's your weather hazard briefing for Tuesday, December 13th. We have some snow around this morning. The widespread snow, especially down to the south, will be slowly ending today. But we're going to have to deal with in the next 2 or 3 days some of that morning low clouds, freezing fog, light snow or flurries falling from under that stratus deck until we at least get it into the week, maybe into the weekend. And it's mainly for the Snake Plain, Magic Valley, South Hill. We've said this before, and the some of the valleys to the south and to the southeast of the Snake Plain. And it still does look like colder temperatures are coming our way, especially by the time we get to the weekend. On satellite, our main storm has moved off to the south and to the east. A lot of this blue cloud cover showing up on satellite, that's that low and mid cloud cover that's coming through, and we're still seeing some snow falling from underneath that. We'll see some of that thinning of that lower cloud deck later today in some areas, not everywhere, but that's going to spread back in overnight. So our impacts, especially the next 3 or 4 days, mainly for the Snake Plain, the Magic Valley, down into the South Hills, Albion Mountains, the eastern and southeastern highlands. Today it's snow and some slick road conditions. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we talked about the patchy freezing fog, the stratus, and some light snow or flurries. Also, we're going to deal with some freezing fog and some clouds up into the Stanley Basin the next couple of days. This might extend into Saturday, but we do have some questions coming in the forecast on exactly how the pattern evolves by the time we get to Saturday and Sunday. So where is that precipitation headed today? You'll notice most of it is from Driggs to Pokey down to near Twin Falls and to the south. Going through the rest of the day, a lot of this dissipates, except once you get to the west of Pocatello. We continue with some light snow across the Magic Valley, down into the South Hills, down along the Utah border, down towards Bear Lake, Preston, and Malad. That continues as well. You'll notice later on this afternoon, we've had the winds coming down out of the north with the colder air, trying to at least that initial push coming in. The winds shift back to the southwest, and that's going to push some of this moisture back towards the north and to the east. We'll have that low cloud cover, we'll have the fog and the stratus, and the most likely areas of seeing some light snow this evening and overnight is going to be, again, Shoshone, Burley, Pocatello, Blackfoot, up along the I-15 corridor, the US 20 corridor into the Island Park area, and also the higher elevations of the southeast and eastern highlands. That is actually also part of another little wave that's coming through, and that's what's happening. Sometimes you might hear us throw out the term cedar feeder. What happens is we get some cloud cover moving over that stratus deck. It drops a little bit of ice out of that higher cloud deck into the lower cloud deck, and then feeds the light snow potential, at least in the lower elevations. Some of the stuff on the higher ridge tops over the south and to the east, that's just snow coming through with that particular wave that's coming through later tonight and tomorrow. May see a little bit of, like I said, some low clouds and some fog in some of the valley locations of the central mountains overnight. As we go into the day tomorrow, you'll see that potential system, or at least that area of low clouds and fog lingering. And then we see this next wave coming through. It's going to be a pretty quick hitter. Most of this is going to be light snow going into Wednesday and into Thursday morning, and that mainly, at least initially, pushes on to the south from there. Like I said, the snow amounts for going into Wednesday are fairly light. We're not talking about a whole lot of accumulation at this particular time. So going back to the rest of our forecast for the next couple of days, snow this morning, very light. Most areas seeing less than an additional inch of snow through at least 11 a.m. this morning. There might be a couple of places that we might see just over an inch, but again, very light snow. And this afternoon, that light snow, at least the accumulating snow, continues to push away from the Snake Plain down into the South Hills and the Southeast Highlands. Temperature-wise for today, many areas we may be not too far off from where we're looking at our high temperatures, mainly in the 20s to near 30 for the lower elevations, teens and 20s for the mountains. Now, for tomorrow, we start to get colder. Along the interstate corridor, we have that stratus deck in place. It's going to be in the teens and 20s, where we get a little bit of clearing, or at least the potential for some clearing before we might see some stratus and fog redevelop. It's going to be down into the single digits to around 0 to 10 below in those particular areas. And we are a little bit cooler overall tomorrow, teens over many areas, 20s, especially along 84 and 86 down into the South Hills, and some of the warmer areas in Lemhi County, also over into the Stanley Basin. Looking at Thursday, we continue to drop those temperatures ever so slightly. We're not going to get until the weekend until we see the colder temperatures moving in. Let's skip to Saturday. Sunday looks very similar. Temperatures near 10 below across the Arco Desert, and we might actually get enough wind to see wind chills in this area. Also, the higher elevations running to minus 10 to minus 20 for Saturday morning. Stanley around 10 below in the single digits, especially from Rexburg, Ashton Hill, all the way down to Burley. Single digits pretty much everywhere. Some of the colder valleys will be at or below 10 below for the overnight lows, and temperatures in the teens and lower 20s across the board, some single digits. Now, we talk about how this forecast is going to change. The pattern, at least for today's forecast, wants to not necessarily bring the colder air in, the low that's going to bring the colder air, and it wants to keep it off to the east. There's some agreement with that, but the majority of the forecast, the stuff we look behind the scenes, still calls for colder temperatures, and that potential is there. So here's today's forecast, at least temperature-wise, for Saturday on the right. On the left, you'll see how much colder the forecast was for a lot of the areas based on yesterday's forecast. So, and we're talking in some areas 3, 5, 6 degrees difference. The idea is this: it's going to remain cold even if we get a little bit warmer weather coming our way versus what we've been forecasting. So expect these temperatures to fluctuate through the rest of the week. Just keep the idea there that it's going to be cold, and we've been kind of pushing this in some of our platforms. If you've got snow on the ground now, it's going to be there when Christmas comes. We're not necessarily saying you're going to get new snow before Christmas, but it's going to be cold enough. We're not going to see a lot of melting of the snow over the next several days as that cold trend continues. So once again, down south, we've got that widespread light snow that slowly ends through the day. But the next 2 or 3 mornings into the early afternoons, we're going to have to deal with some stratus, some freezing fog, and some light snow or flurries falling out of the stratus deck, especially from the Snake Plain south and east. And temperatures will be gradually getting colder, but the really cold air, like we talked about, is not going to get here until the weekend. Have a great Tuesday out there, and do stay safe, everyone.